Welcome to Where Her Heart Speaks, a show designed to challenge and disrupt ineffective thoughts and behaviors to help you not only embody peace, joy, calm, and certainty, but also to help you live the life you've always dreamed of living. Where Her Heart Speaks with Coach Catherine begins now.
Hi there, it's Coach Catherine. Do you struggle to connect with or stay in touch with your true authentic self? Or are you often overwhelmed with trauma responses? It's time to face the facts. The fight or flight response is real and it has a huge impact on your life. And this is why I've created an easy assessment to help you understand the state of your nervous system. Is it keeping you safe? Or a better question, is it keeping you stuck? Is it allowing you to be your authentic self and thrive? If you're interested in learning more about your nervous system and how to experience more peace and calm in your life, don't wait any longer. Visit my website at www.catherinejames.com and take the assessment right there on the front page. You owe it to yourself to know the truth. Oh, if we could just adjust the speed of life as we adjust the hours on the clock. How would life change if we had the power to speed things up or maybe slow things down as needed? That's something we're going to get into today. And before we get there, I just want to take a moment and welcome you. Welcome to those who are new and welcome back to those who are returning. I'm Catherine James, international speaker, best-selling author, trauma-informed coach, and your host for this show, Where Her Heart Speaks. In the U.S. and other parts of the world like Canada, Australia, the U.K., there is a concept of changing our clocks. In the spring, we move an hour of daylight from the morning to the evening. And then in the fall, we return that hour back to morning. And this concept is aimed at conserving energy and making the most of natural daylight during the day. It's a practice that many of us have known to exist all of our lives. It's a practice that we've come to accept. And here in the U.S., this past Sunday, we rolled back our clocks 1 hour. And I often think about things, probably way too deeply, if I were just being honest. Things that don't matter to most, and some things that do matter. But in my mind, I play with all of the whys of a thing, all of the what ifs. And this week, I found myself doing that. I thought about this notion of creating more natural light. And then I thought about how unnatural that actually is. And how we have come to accept it because it serves us. And then my thoughts shifted. They shifted to myself. And not only to myself, but also to the many professional women that I serve, the many professional women that I watch. I thought that we've all come to accept some unnatural acts or behaviors in our lives because they serve us. Behaviors such as suppressing our emotions, isolating, ignoring our gut, living with high levels of stress, self-medicating, and so many more. Yeah, in our fast-paced society, we often find ourselves fixated on the idea of constantly moving forward, pushing ourselves to forge ahead and keep placing one foot in front of the other. And while these principles may sound appealing, have you ever wondered if they are truly good for us? If they're truly good for our communities or our planet? I've come to wonder that. And in this episode, I want to talk to you about falling back to spring forward. What if, just like changing the clocks, we allowed ourselves to fall back, or we allowed ourselves to retreat in our personal lives? What if we return to a more natural way of existing? You see, in my mind, when we fall back based upon the definition of fall back, when we fall back, the clock falls back, then we are returning to a more natural mode. And so I just can't help but wonder, what if we as women allow ourselves determine how we can fall back to a more natural way of existing? And what I mean by that is releasing or disconnecting from some of the beliefs and the behaviors that were cultivated by our cultures, our social constructs, religion, families, environments. Reconnecting with the women we were created to be. What if that were possible? We as women have been forced to take on roles. We've been forced to take on attitudes and personas that may or may not be in alignment with who we were created to be or who we really are. And I have a friend, I remember we were in a conversation years ago, and she said that she knew from an early age that she did not want to have children. And because she knew it was in her early and mid-20s that she actually asked her doctor to tie her tubes. And she asked her doctor to tie her tubes several times, but the doctor refused. He wouldn't do it. And now I am sure there are women who make this request and then change their minds, which is what her doctor actually told her. But today, she's beyond childbearing years, and she does not have any children. And she still contends that she knew way back then that she did not want any children. There was a knowing in her. And she didn't give in to that. And I just wonder how many women give in to what others and systems prescribe for our lives, both knowingly and unknowingly. I know that I did. At the age of 24, I knew I was to own my own business. I knew that I was to support women. I knew that. I knew that in my body, but my head didn't know it. My head didn't know any better. And with all of its reasoning and all of its logic, it did what everyone said it should have done. I got a good job. And all of the bells and whistles that went along with it. That was all I knew to do from my reasoning and logical head brain. And although it looked good, it didn't feel good. And most days, I could ignore the pull. I could ignore the pull that was telling me that was not it. But there were other days that my truth got the best of me. And even then, my head would kick in and tell me all the reasons why I couldn't do what I knew I was to do. And I'm just wondering, as I'm saying this, how many of you know that there is something different for you to be doing, a different way for you to be being, and your head kicks in and talks you out of it? Now, back then for me, I knew nothing about trauma responses. I knew nothing about afferent and efferent neurons or the information that is carried to and from the body. I didn't know that the information carried from the body was being carried at a rate of nearly 9 times than the information carried from the head. So the information carried from the body to the brain is being carried at a rate of nearly 9 times more than the information carried from the brain to the body. I didn't know that. I didn't know that back then. I knew nothing about how the nervous system keeps you safe. All I knew was that I wanted to do something that had not been modeled by anyone in my family or any of my close friends for that matter. And it was scary. So I unconsciously accepted the roles. I unconsciously accepted the attitude and the personas that were assigned to me by society, that were assigned to me by my family, by my culture, unconsciously. And it wasn't until I began to reconnect with the woman I was created to be that I was able to finally step into my purpose. Now listen, I want to make it clear that I had done a lot of personal development work on myself. Or I will say on my head brain. And as a result, I had overcome quite a bit of my stuff. And I was happy about that. And I still knew that there was something that was missing. And it wasn't until I did work on my body that I began to experience real freedom. It wasn't until I brought the body on board that I began to experience real freedom. And this is why I am so passionate about addressing the root cause of our beliefs and behaviors. I'm so passionate about addressing our trauma responses and our emotions, as well as listening to our bodies. Reconnecting with our natural way of existing. I believe that by doing so, our nervous system would naturally adapt to our needs. It would automatically and appropriately enter and exit each part of the nervous system, the ventral, the sympathetic, and the dorsal, as needed without finding a home in sympathetic, which is also known as a fight or flight response, or without finding a home in dorsal, which is also considered to be the shutdown response. It would simply move in and out of each area as it needed. I believe that by returning to a more natural way of existing, we would experience ventral more often. Ventral is the state when we are more open, when we are more calm and creative. Some people call this the flow state. Positive intelligence calls it the sage, and then Stephen Porges, founder of the polyvagal theory, calls it the social engagement system. I think if we were to return to our more natural way of existing, we would have an opportunity to reside in ventral more often. As we release the unnatural and return to the natural, we'd become more attuned to our bodies. we would listen and learn from our bodies. Listen to our bodies. That's not something we're taught to do, right? Not at all. In fact, we are directly and indirectly dissuaded from listening to our bodies. If you're like me, you grew up hearing, and maybe still do hear, things like mind over matter, which encourages choosing mental strength over physiological sensations. If you're like me, maybe you heard or still hear, don't let your heart rule your head. In other words, don't let our emotions or desires cloud our judgment or override our logical thinking. I heard things like, listen to your head, not just your heart. Again, encouraging us to consider both rational thinking and emotional intuition when we make decisions, like just to pay attention to what you feel isn't enough. That's not enough. You had to bring on this rational thinking brain. Those are things that we heard. We heard things like your heart can deceive you. And this implies that listening to your heart may not always lead you in the right direction or yield the results that are best for you. And I just want to say that I have come to understand that when we are connected with our higher power, whoever that may be for you, I call them Holy Spirit or God. But when we are connected with our higher power, listening to self always produces what's best for you. That's been my experience. It may not always be what you want, but it is best for you. And for me, just where I am, I've come to really appreciate that. So some other things that we have heard or are hearing is don't let your gut feeling lead you astray. Your heart can be deceiving. Don't let your emotions cloud your judgment. There's so many things out here that really steers us away from really listening to what our body is saying. So many sayings and so many attitudes. I think of all the ways intuition is made out to be a bad thing. I hear people say things, oh, that's woo-woo stuff. Or, a woman's intuition, like something's wrong with it, right? This radio show and podcast is titled Where Her Heart Speaks. Each week, I close this show praying that you will come to listen from the place where your heart speaks. Why is that? Because I believe we possess a deeper inner wisdom that we tune out and dismiss. The body is continually sending messages. However, because we are conditioned to rely on our head brain and ignore the body, we are afraid of our emotions. We miss the messages, and we are only partially living. And for some of us, we know in our heart, we know in our body, in our physiological being, that there is more. And if you can't make it make sense to the head brain, you push it away. As if you're like this director of a major film creating a storyline. You tell yourself all the reasons why it's not for you. All the reasons why you're fine where you are, or you should be ashamed of yourself for wanting more, or you should feel guilty for not being grateful. Like, after all, you're the first in your family to accomplish what you've accomplished, and on and on and on. And then after a while, you're applauding your creativity and accepting it as truth. Until your heart sneaks in and reminds you of your real truth. You were created to be more. And if you're where I was all those years ago, you feel stuck and you're not sure what to do next. And I can hear you asking, how do I get to my more? I remember sitting in that space for a long time. How do I get to my more? Like, I've done all of the quote unquote right things, and yet I still feel that there's more. How do I get to my more? You might be wondering, how do I reconnect with my natural way of existing? The short answer: fall back. Fall back. Allow your head brain to simply fall back. Now, as I say this, I want to express that the head brain is just as important as the body. So I don't want to imply that the head brain or the rational mind should be like thrown out with the bathwater. I don't want to give that impression at all. It is just as important. It has a role. And that role is just not to rule over all things, as it was once believed. Albert Einstein said the intuitive mind is a sacred gift and the rational mind is a faithful servant. He said that we have created a society that honors the servant and has forgotten the gift. To let go of doing and start being, we must return to our gift. We must allow a natural dance to take place between the gift and the servant. Not continue to allow the servant to rule all, but a natural dance to take place between the two. How do we return to our gift? How do we return to our gift? We have to not only return our bodies, but we have to trust the wisdom of our bodies. And this is so simple and so hard. Simple because it is, and hard because it comes up against the very way we've existed all of these years. Cognitive dissonance is at play. Like, my body is feeling one thing and my mind is saying another. There's a discord. So the falling back I mentioned is not done in the rational mind. And again, this time paraphrasing Einstein, he said that we cannot solve a problem from the same level of thinking or the same level of consciousness where the problem was created or where we were when we created the problem. You can't do it. That's impossible. So in order to reconnect, we have to move beyond the rational mind. We have to go to the source. We have to go to the root or the body. Like, where the issue lies. And notice I keep using the word reconnect because the created you remains within you. It's never left. So you don't have to go and create a new way of being or create this new person to exist or find someone that you want to be like and emulate that. You don't have to do any of that. The you that you were created to be has never left. And all you're doing is reconnecting with that part of you. You are already present. And just because maybe you've not been aware or you've not connected with that aspect of you in a very long time doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. Now, unlike the falling back of time, where we can literally just turn a button if it doesn't happen automatically, falling back of the thinking brain and reconnecting with your inner wisdom is going to take a little practice. And there are several things that you can do. But most important is noticing. Noticing what is happening with your body. So if you're open, let's play with this for a moment and experience what's possible. And remember, I said it's simple. And this is a condensed version. But I believe that it can be just as powerful. And we don't have to make it difficult. And again, if you're open to doing an exercise, I just want to invite you to pause in the moment. If you're sitting, place your feet flat on the floor. Pull your shoulders back. And if you want and are comfortable with closing your eyes, close your eyes. And again, I'll say only if you're comfortable. You can also look downward with a soft or a fixed gaze. And now I just want to invite you to bring your attention to your breath. And we're in a space of noticing. Notice what happens in your body as you breathe in or inhale. Notice what happens as you breathe out or exhale. Notice any sensations you may be feeling. Scan from the top of your head down to the bottom of your feet and just notice. Notice the sensation associated with your bottom in the chair. Notice the sensation in your legs. Now notice the sensation in your feet as they connect with the floor and the earth. And just be with them. No need to judge. No need to make them mean anything or look for reasons as to why they are present. Simply be with them and notice. Now I want to invite you to bring your attention back to your breath as we get ready to complete this really condensed exercise. Take a couple of deep breaths. And if your eyes are closed, you can open them when you're ready, and only when you're ready. Now I want you to think about how you felt before the exercise and how you feel now. And as you wind down this evening, as you move through your day tomorrow, I'd invite you to connect with this noticing as often as possible. This is a first step to reconnecting with you, becoming aware of the sensations in your body, noticing what's going on with your body. And here's the thing. This reconnection enhances every aspect of your life. As a leader, it enhances your leadership skills, your ability to communicate, your ability to empathize, your ability to support, your ability to convey messages for those that you're leading. As a parent, it enhances your parenting skills, your ability to feel your child's emotions, your ability to hold them and their emotions, to understand, to communicate. And it enhances your relationships, all relationships, intimate, platonic, all relationships. And then it enhances your creativity, your sense of purpose, and it will bring greater balance in your life. So there are so many reasons for connecting with self. There are so many reasons for reconnecting with our natural way of existing. So many reasons to trust our inner wisdom. Become okay with feeling our emotions. So many reasons. And my prayer for you this week is that you will fall back. I pray that you will reconnect with your natural way of existing. Reconnect with your inner wisdom, your emotions, and live life being the woman you were created to be. And as I close, I want to remind you that in this life, we get to choose. So choose to listen from the place where your heart speaks and choose to live a sensational life. Peace and blessings.
Thank you for listening to Where Her Heart Speaks with Coach Catherine, where Catherine aims to challenge and disrupt ineffective thoughts and behaviors to help you not only embody peace, joy, calm, and certainty, but also help you live the life you've always dreamed of living. Follow Catherine on Facebook and Instagram at I Am Catherine James and visit www.catherinejames.com. Remember, to live the life of your dreams, you must go within and return to the place where your heart speaks.